Did you just send me some love hearts, man?
Yeah, I didn't. I know I'm a bit late
you.
for Valentine's. What have you been working on this week, Keith?
I've been making a linen basket type thing with compound angles and tapers to get familiar with my new plunge saw. Been a bit of a challenging one. I've made many mistakes along the way, but it's coming together okay. And I'm also planning, I've done some 3D models for what I want to build in our utility room. I'm going to build my own kitchen units and worktop as well. So I'm just planning that out, and it's surprising how much material you need for a project like that. In fact, it would be so much cheaper just to go and buy the cabinets.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
So what's your motivation? I mean, for me, it's always, well, I have a YouTube channel. Do you have weird shapes and things?
Not at all. It's all in a straight line. It's all pretty standard and regular. I have to be honest, my main motivation is we can't afford to buy a new kitchen. I've got another deal lined up with Medite where they're going to supply materials for me to work with. So obviously if I can get all of the materials for free, my time is essentially free or paid for by what I do on YouTube. So yeah, that's my main motivation, if I'm honest. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it in a way because I quite like monotonous tasks. I'm going to basically do 3 base units and a wall unit and then a worktop with laminate. And all of the base units are identical, so they're all going to be identically sized. So it's going to look quite nice aesthetically, I think, but also it's just batch cutting things and assembly, which I quite like jobs like that sometimes.
Yeah, no, good. And are you going to spray them?
No, I think I'm going to rely on rollering on the primer and rollering on some of that hard-wearing acrylic eggshell again, because that combination just works so well for me. It's wipeable, it's durable. Yeah, well happy with the results I get with a roller. It does leave a bit of a texture, but I'm fine with that. And I think actually that texture is what makes it a little bit more durable as well.
I quite like the texture of a roller.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. I only used Euro-style hinges, or whatever you call them, cup hinges, for the first time last year. And they always kind of intimidated me, the fitting of them. And I was doing inset doors, which are actually more complicated.
They're the trickier, yeah.
They're the trickier. But yeah, an overlay door, I was like, oh, wow, this is something that it's so much easier than normal hinges.
Yeah.
It's kind of idiot-proof, in fact.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do inset as well because I just prefer the more minimal look to them. Did you use a jig or did you just measure them out?
I bought what Peter Millard recommends, this little plastic jig that costs like £2, but it is for overlay. It's not for inset. So I just measured them out and yeah, they turned out perfect. If you're doing loads, it might be worth just making a jig out of a scrap bit of wood or something.
Yeah, I might do that because I don't really fit enough of those style hinges to warrant buying a jig, and plus I would lose a jig if I had it anyway.
Yeah, and it's just one more thing to put in a cupboard or a box, and I've got so many things like that.
Yeah, I'm having a bit of a clear out at the moment actually, just giving stuff away and just getting rid of stuff. It's such a shame that you can't do giveaways on Patreon, I think.
Why can't you do giveaways? Is it against the rules?
Yeah, Patreon don't allow you to do giveaways.
Wow. How weird.
Which sucks, doesn't it? I don't really understand the logic of it. I don't understand why they do it.
I've not done one for a couple of years because of how much negativity I got about it all.
Yeah. Is it UK only or something like that? Yeah.
That just super insulted. I'm trying to do a nice thing.
Yeah.
That's costing me money, but I'm not, especially after leaving the EU. It's so complicated to ship anything.
Yeah.
And you got done by the scammers, like, oh no, I'm just not even touching it now.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, last time I did it, I got scammed, and I said at the time, I'm never ever doing this again.
Yeah.
But if you could just restrict a giveaway to channel members or something, that would be so much easier because you've already built up somewhat of a rapport with a lot of those people anyway, and you know they're genuine people and they're not scam artists, so it would take a lot of the hassle out of it.
And you have a way to communicate with them, as that's another trouble with YouTube. There's no private messaging.
Yeah, that's how they got me. They created a fake YouTube profile and got me to send it to a dodgy address.
So I've only done giveaways on Instagram, and then people moan that they haven't got Instagram, but there's no way of doing it on YouTube. Yeah, no.
Listen to us with our first world problems of struggling to give stuff away.
But I've got even more stuff because my dad was a mechanic when he left school. Then he went to work for John Dickinson's, which was a paper mill. So actually he got this massive workbench from there. I mean, he was a management there, but they had workshops and things, and they're clearing out. He got that. Then he opened his own DIY store. Then he moved to a bigger DIY store. So he's just got a garage full of tools, and someone would love it. There's just shelf after shelf after shelf of all these boxes of old screws.
No way.
Yeah, and if you're a furniture store, it'd be amazing. All these flathead and brass screws. But they're just not something I use, and they take up half my workshop. There's just so many. But what he did have is some Stanley chisels and hand planes he got given by his parents for his 21st birthday. So I've taken them home with some other bits that are things he's had since he was a teenager type thing.
So real vintage tools.
Yeah, especially some of the mechanics stuff. So they're all a bit rusty because, again, just didn't use them. For DIY, you just don't pick up that 50-year-old square, do you? You use your modern speed square and things, and he had some more modern stuff. So I'm going to kind of clean all the rust off this stuff, but I had it all on my workbench in the living room, and I've cleared it up. But it's like, there's so much stuff. But it's a bit of history, and I want it, and it has a good story, and I want it all on the wall of the workshop.
Is it your job to clear out everything?
No, his wife's doing it, and the garage is not a priority. I don't think she's worried about it whatsoever because it's not a space she wants to use.
Okay.
One of the chaps at the funeral, his old friend, I was like, do you want any bits? And he came to the garage and took a sliding miter saw that's only a few years old and a bench grinder.
Yeah.
And some bits. So I got rid of a few bits for her. I'm thinking of building a workbench for the new workshop because this one is made, I'm sat at it now in the living room, it's made out of 5x2s, treated, and they're just screwed on and not glued together. So each one is moved individually, so it's not perfectly flat. I think that's a basic requirement of a workbench. I want the top to be flat.
Yeah, especially if you're using it for assembling things and stuff like that.
It's just got to be. You don't want things to rock on it. This is all treated wood, so I can put this outside as like an outdoor workbench / potting bench.
Yeah.
For all my gardening that I don't do. And build a really nice workbench. I'm even tempted to do an MDF top. I see quite a lot of people, even like Rob Cosman and really good hand tool guys, laminating 3 bits of 18mm MDF together for the bench top.
Yeah.
Last time you asked for my opinion on drawers. We've moved off clothing. We're talking like drawers that you pull out. I'm not sure that's helpful. Like kitchen drawers. Some people love drawers. You do. Some people hate drawers. I am in between. I do have a couple of the little Bisley filing cabinet things, the drawers, and I really like shallow drawers because things can't get lost. It's one layer of stuff. And I have one full of blades, so jigsaw blades, hacksaw blades, Stanley knife blades. What are you going to do with all those small parts? I think a drawer is the only way to store it. Forstner bits as well, all in a drawer. Most of them in their individual cases. I'm also a big fan of the Stanley organisers. I've got about 14 of the Stanley ones, and I've made like a little unit, so they're almost like drawers themselves.
Yeah, see, I've never been a fan of that type of storage, which is interesting. Those pull-out cases just aren't for me. I find it a bit of a faff. I'm assuming you're going to reuse that unit in your new workshop? Yeah.
It's in my kitchen at the moment, so definitely the base, the top, I made out of scraps, and my whole motivation for the top was just to block the back wall so it wasn't a green tent.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
They just get dusty. I don't know. Things like sanding discs, I think shelves are good for. You've got a drawer of sanding discs, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm the same as you in the open shelving in the workshop. Everything's covered in dust. So I'm kind of a mindset of either cabinets with doors which I find somewhat useful when I think about the stuff I put in those cabinets with like kitchen style cabinets. Essentially, I've got my camera lenses in there, keeps the dust off them. I've got my PPE equipment, but I find that really frustrating because every time I open the door, safety glasses fall out on me, or respirators and everything else. Cabinets have kind of limited applications for me anyway, because I just get frustrated with things falling out on me. Interesting you mentioned shallow drawers, because one of my biggest regrets when I made my sort of secondary workbench with drawers underneath is that I didn't make the drawers shallow enough. I think I might have been cheaping out, as I often do, because drawer runners are really expensive. Yeah. So I thought, 4 drawers, that'll be perfect. But what I should have done is probably 8, maybe even 10 shallow drawers, because you're absolutely right. Shallow drawers are just brilliant because you can just open it, immediately see what you're wanting to grab. What do you use for things like hand screwdrivers?
Just thinking about your drawer situation, if you put bits of wood halfway up on the side, you could make little trays that sat on top, like they're half the size of the drawer maybe, and slide back and forth.
That's a nice idea.
Or even a second tray that kind of is more like a kitchen tray with cutouts for handles, so you can lift a whole tray out.
I like that, because a lot of the stuff in the drawers I'm not grabbing all of the time anyway, so that stuff could be underneath, couldn't it?
Yeah, so for my screwdrivers, they're in one of the Bisley cabinets. I've got one drawer of screwdrivers, one drawer of plier-y type things, the little bits and bobs like awls and things. But I'm very tempted to make my own one.
Yeah.
It's just, I think they're 5 drawer, the little ones I have, but even just making 5 drawers is quite a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. I used to really hate making drawers and find them really frustrating but I don't know, now I've done so many of them, I actually really quite enjoy them. I can knock them out really quickly and get them fitting perfectly, not every time, but most times now, which is good. It's like anything, isn't it? The more you do something, the better you get at it. And
yeah. Before, I had the 5mm grooving blade. Now I've got the 6mm grooving blade. So I imagine 6mm ply is probably closer to 5.5 mil. So on a drawer that size, basically a sheet of an A4 paper, 6mm ply would be an absolutely acceptable drawer base.
Yeah.
The trouble with something so shallow and having an inset drawer is then you've probably got close to a centimetre underneath it that's
wasted.
Yeah, so it's kind of almost more practical just to screw or tack the ply to the bottom of the frame.
Yeah, I think that's stronger anyway. Whenever I've glued on drawer bottoms, I felt a bit like I'm cheating.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I can easily do the housing grooves and put the bottom in. I've done that once or twice.
Do you find YouTube, though, changes how you make things? Because if I was just doing it for myself, I would absolutely just screw the bit of wood to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because it's a YouTube video, I kind of feel I've got to make it more complicated and to kind of head off the comments telling me, well, you did that wrong.
That's not the traditional way to do it. Yeah, I can see on a well-made, handcrafted piece of furniture why you would want to have your drawer bottom in housing grooves, and that's because you can replace, if you spill a bottle of ink or something in the bottom of the drawer, you can just replace it with a new piece of plywood, job done. But for a workshop where really all you care about is how durable it is, how much weight it can deal with, you could even just screw it onto the bottom, mechanical fixings all the way around, and then it's still replaceable.
It's the aesthetics as well, because you're obviously going to have exposed ply. I mean, you could put a drawer front on that would hide it from the front, but you'd still see it on the side. So I can see why you wouldn't want that in a bit of furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand people that make really beautiful workshop furniture. But yeah, I'm thinking of making some because what I'd love is I've got the floor standing pillar drill.
Yeah.
The table lowers almost the way to the bottom. I can't see me ever needing to do that. So it's all dead space on the pedestal. So I'm thinking if I could have a little drawer unit that sits on the pedestal and keeps all my drill bits.
Nice.
I've got a Stanley case full of drill and router bits. And then I've got 2 Bisley drawers full of drill bits. And then I've got another box full of drill bits because I tend to keep all the Fulton bits in the plastic case they come in, because it is quite useful to actually see the size quickly.
Yeah.
So I think I could fill 5 or 6 drawers of drill bits and router bits.
Yeah.
Actually more with router bits, because I've got several cases of router bits.
You could even put that drawer unit on casters, so that if you ever did need that drilling capacity where you lower the table right to the floor, you could just wheel it out of the way, kind of thing.
Oh, it'd absolutely be movable.
Drill bits is something I've always struggled with in terms of storage. I mean, I think I did a video where I cut up loads of plastic conduit, 20mm conduit, and I put the drill bit in different sizes. And that has worked really well, but that's kind of my regular brad point or pointed tip drill bits.
Yeah.
Whereas things like Forstner bits, and I've got a lot of auger bits. I really like auger bits, but I've never really come up with a good solution for them. So usually I'm just screwing a pot onto the wall and just chucking them in, kind of thing.
I never use auger bits, but when I was fitting the mortise lock, I think I watched Proper DIY's video about it.
Yeah.
And I was going to use a spade bit, and he uses an auger bit, and then I remembered, oh, yeah, I've got an auger bit, which I bought for the very last time I fitted a mortise lock, and it's the right size. But yeah,
they're aggressive, aren't they?
They are aggressive, but so are spade bits.
Well, you see, I've never had good experiences with spade bits, but I think that's because I've always bought the cheap ones. They
don't clear the chippings as well, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got the Bosch ones that have these are ones I bought years ago before ever dealing with Bosch. They have like a corkscrewy tip to them.
Oh, yeah.
So they're so aggressive.
So they bite in.
They pull your drill down really aggressively. Oh, yeah, I've made mistakes the first few times because they're just so aggressive. You just start drilling and then suddenly you're all the way through the bit of wood and you've blown out the other side. Like, wow.
That was me with auger bits the first time I used them as well.
Yeah. I had to definitely drop down to... My drill's always in the second gear, pretty much. Like, oh no, it's so much better in first gear, taking a bit slow and a bit more torque, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, drill bit storage is difficult. I've got a Stanley box full of them, but I think what I've done over the years is a drill bit gets a bit blunt, I buy a new one, stick the blunt one in the Stanley box. Like, why am I keeping all these drill bits? Am I really going to sharpen them one day?
I've had good results sharpening the bigger drill bits, but when you're getting down to kind of your 2, 3, 4mm drill bits, they're really difficult to sharpen and get a clean edge on them, I find. And also those sizes of drill bits are the ones that you tend to go through the most anyway, because they tend to break.
Yeah. I've got into buying them in packs of 10, 3mm drill bits, because even a pack of 10 is, and the good ones, it's not much money.
No.
I bought some DeWalt ones, you know when you go to Screwfix and they've got the bits on the counter and they're trying to sell you the special deal, and it was a set of 4mm to 8mm bits, all the ones you tend to use, and they were hex shanked, so they would go on your impact driver as well. And they sold them as multi-use. They drill wood, metal, concrete, and I bought them and I've hardly ever used them, and they're long as well, actually. If I ever go away to do something, I just throw them in the box, even if I don't think I need them, and it's like, I know I've got drill bits that can drill wood or hang something on the wall.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the length as well, because that's another thing I really liked about those dart ones, is that they tend to be a good inch, some of them maybe even 2 inches longer than your average drill bit size. And I've found that length, that I need that extra length. This is gonna I find that extra length is really useful.
Yeah. 1 more inch is always handy. No, it is true. I find that all the time. How many times have you drilled a hole and then loosen the chuck to move the drill so it's grabbing by the last few mil just to drill through something? Another
thing, especially with SDS bits as well, I've bought a bunch of SDS drill bits in the past and they're never long enough to get through what I want to get through. So again, the extra long ones are just far more useful.
I don't even have an SDS drill at the moment. Every time I've needed to put something on the wall and drill into brick, I've found the hammer drill to be
enough.
Sometimes SDS, when you're just putting a raw plug, is it's so easy to be a bit too aggressive. But when you need to drill into concrete, then it's pretty essential.
concrete work that I'm doing at the moment, I've found that just putting a chisel bit in the SDS drill and breaking up the concrete with it has been really good as well.
I've never used one for anything but drilling. But yeah, I've seen people remove tiles and things with them as well. But sometimes you're on the drill press and you're drilling things and you're changing bits, like where do you put them?
Yeah.
Well, you've got bench top ones, it's probably less of a problem.
Yeah, I've got a wall behind it where I've got all of my drill bits just randomly screwed to the wall, but it's not ideal in terms of storage. I guess the other option, because it's a drill press, is you could just have one of those magnetic strips.
Yeah.
And just fling your bits on that you want easy access to, perhaps.
I did used to keep them on magnetic strips.
Yeah.
But the amount of times I'd brushed against it and knocked them all, and it'd annoy me.
Yeah.
Hello, Matt here. It takes us quite a lot of time to prepare and produce each episode of this podcast, and we'd like to keep putting it out for free. If you enjoy the podcast and you'd like to help, support and shape future episodes, you can find a link to our Patreon page in the show notes, or just search online for Workshop Banter Patreon. Thank you, and now back to the podcast.
I'm conscious that I mentioned not liking open shelving earlier. Now I've thought about it, I used to have all of my power tools in cabinets with doors on, and I found that just really annoying because in my old workshop I just had all of my power tools on open shelving so that I could just grab them, and I found that extra step of opening doors.
Yeah, and I think your mitre saw station with all the cubbies looks great.
It just works really well for me. I think the idea originally behind having them behind closed doors was to stop dust getting on them, but they're power tools, they should be able to deal with that anyway. Do you know what I mean?
I have Bosch L boxes for all my tools.
Yeah.
I'm looking around me, none of the tools, this is my living room, none of the tools are in the boxes because I've been using them, and the time it takes to put them in the box, and then the boxes are stacked on top of each other, so you've got to unstack the boxes to get to it. If I was in the trade and going in and out of a van, would be a game changer, amazing way of storing them. Yeah. In the workshop, I don't want to get things in and out of the boxes. So I think I might end up, when I've got the workshop built, throwing all the nice L boxes in the loft.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it reminds me of when I got the Milwaukee plunge saw a few weeks back. It comes in one of those really deep boxes, and it literally just holds the plunge saw and the dust bag. And then there's a big moulded polystyrene thing so that you can put it in there and it's all safe and it's secure and everything, which is lovely, but it's such a waste of space.
Yeah.
So if I ever take that box out to a job, there's no way I'm going to just want to put that in there with my plunge saw, because, you know, usually if I'm going out to a job, I need to collect some wood, I need to pick up various bits and pieces. You need space in your car, so you can't just have one box for one tool, can you? No. So usually I just have like 5 or 6 tools all in one of those deep boxes. You know, they're durable tools. They can handle a little bit of, you know, rough and tumble. Yeah, I've never really been a fan of the whole sustainers thing as well. Like, particularly one of my pet peeves is, you know, seeing pictures on Instagram of people with just a wall full of sustainers. It's almost like they're flexing in a way. Like, look how much money I've got. I can see the appeal where if you're one of those kind of guys that are out on site a lot. I think I've seen a system, someone did one before with like pull-out trays with the sustainer on. So you can literally just pull them out in a drawer, grab them and go. And then obviously if you're workshop based on a particular day, you can just pop them back in and it works for that kind of scenario. But I don't understand why you would want to store tools in sustainers if you were predominantly workshop based. That would just frustrate me.
Yeah, same here. I'm doing it at the moment because I don't have a workshop. But mine, I'm thinking of my track saw, it has the foam insert, and I've just got the planer with the foam insert, and all the inserts have space for a charger and batteries.
Yeah.
But if I'm taking 6 boxes, I'm not taking 6 chargers and 6 lots of batteries. I don't want their organising system.
Yeah.
If you did it in a different way, you'd get 2 or 3, as you say, 2 or 3 tools in each box.
Yeah.
I like Carpenter13 on Instagram and his storage solutions, and he often makes like plywood inserts for his boxes because you can be so much more efficient. But the amount of time I actually take them out the house, I think the last time was doing my mum's garden room, really. And they did want a pagoda. And I was a bit like, oh, I could do it, but I think I'd need a hand, because being able to concrete in massive posts to support something that's going to span 2 cars, I'm not sure I can do it on my own.
Depends what flooring you've got, but can you use one of those bolt-down post holder things?
Yeah, maybe. But I was kind of umming and ahhing, and it's like, I'm not doing it until the summer.
Yeah.
So they've gone and got a company to quote, and they've actually sent them some 3D renderings. Like, oh, it's always interesting. Like, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. That's really nice how they've done it.
Yeah.
But they've paid the deposit, and it's like, I think it's like £6,000. I'm like, I reckon that's under £1,000's worth of materials.
It's a shame. I would have loved to have seen you take that on.
I was happy to do it. It's just, they're very much like, with the garden room, like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And like, I'll do it, but I've only been in my house 3 months and done nothing on that. But I ended up doing their garden room.
Cubbyhole system that I've got works really well. And also, because of the sizes, I think even if I changed tool platform one day, or if Milwaukee redesign one of their tools and I have to find a new space for it, I think I can make it work anyway. It's quite versatile, and also because some of them are just held in with screws, I can move them if necessary.
Yeah, actually, Carpenter13 was actually talking about that the other day. He's got the new 12-volt Milwaukee planer, and everyone was going, that's a blatant rip-off of the Bosch one, and they look similar. And then he put up a picture of every manufacturer's 18-volt planer, and of course, they all just look exactly the same. So yeah, if you change brands, then everything will fit, I'm sure, because yeah, a plunge saw shape is a plunge saw shape, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Are you getting on well with your new one?
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot lighter than the Makita, because obviously the Makita had 2 18-volt batteries, and it always felt a bit cumbersome. I've heard like Peter Millard mentioned before that the Makita is a little bit, maybe it was primitive or something like that in terms of the way that it was designed. I think it's quite a refined tool, but then again, I haven't got the same level of experience with track saws as Peter has.
Who has?
The Milwaukee definitely feels like a step up, and just being able to use 1 battery rather than 2 is a huge bonus. The project that I've used it on so far, which was this linen basket thing, required changing different angles, and I didn't even test whether the blade was at a perfect, 90 degrees to the base plate or anything out of the box. Usually I would have done, but I kind of trust the Milwaukee tools now in terms of just getting out of the box and using them. And like I say, I had to cut some 5-degree angles and some 22.5-degree angles, and everything just came together perfectly.
Oh, that's good. I look forward to seeing this video.
I built the thing in a way so that if the angles were slightly off, I could make some refinements and glue it together anyway. It's a bit hard to explain, but like basically it's an octagonal thing, but I glued up the halves independently so that when I put them together, and that if they didn't marry up perfectly, I could just swipe a hand plane over, take off a bit of a leading edge and glue them together, and it would have all been fine. But it came together perfectly first time, so I kind of took that as it's accurately set up straight out of the box and ready to do whatever I need to. One other thing I should mention, actually, the guide rails are just heavenly compared to the Evolution ones that I used to use. I don't know a lot about this stuff. Is it anodized or something when something's kind of... The rails are red.
Okay.
Like a deep red colour. I don't know any of this stuff in terms of terminology, but they just look beautiful. And they're so much more thick and chunky, and they just feel great. Those Evolution rails, they did the job, and they're a cheap solution, and they're Makita pattern rails, so you can use them with so many different plunge saws, but...
That's the trouble. They're so expensive rails, aren't they, for what they are?
Yeah.
The Bosch ones have rail clamps that aren't compatible with anyone else's, where they are the Maffel, but a pair of the rail clamps is like 50 quid.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any rail clamps.
The one thing I'm still a bit unclear on, I've sent a query over to Milwaukee actually on it, because I've Googled for one of the joining bars so that you can join 2 rails together. I can't see that Milwaukee make them. I can't see that they're available anywhere online. It might just be because they're a new product. I don't know. Or maybe you can just use any joining bars on them, but who knows. But I will need to sort out something, because obviously I can only cut up to 1400 mil or whatever it is at the moment.
So I had the Festool one, and it's only after I got rid of the saw I realised you were supposed to use 2 joining rails. I was only using 1.
Yeah, no, the evolution are the same. They need to, because obviously if you just install one, there's more chance if you knock it, it's just going to skew off. Yeah.
But they're sold individually, which is ridiculous if you need two.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
But the Bosch one's much better. No,
Yeah.
your blanket chest is good. I not blanket chest, your laundry basket. Because my laundry basket is my floor at the moment.
Yeah.
So I probably should make one.
The reason I've built this laundry basket, linen basket, whatever it's going to be called, is actually not even to store clothes that are ready for the wash. If there's an item of clothing that I'm going to wear again, like a jumper or whatever, I'll hang it on the back of a chair and then I'll wear it again. But that soon gets out of hand and my chair just becomes full of clothes. But I always want to separate my work clothes from my nice clothes. So then I've got two areas of clothes. I've got work clothes that are covered in dust that I don't want to pollute my clean clothes with. So this laundry basket is literally going to be somewhere to dump all of my work clothes that are covered in dust and muck, but I'm going to wear them again, kind of thing.
This sounds like the boss got annoyed with you and you've come up with a solution project.
Yeah, you might have hit the nail on the head there.
You're saying about the angles coming together. So have you ever tried the burnishing, like ply with a screwdriver to close up gaps? I've always seen those little videos and thought, oh, that's so clever.
Yeah, it works really well.
You've done it, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I've seen you do it.
But yeah, I don't know whether I did it on this linen basket because everything just kind of...
Yeah, we get it.
So
it
well.
was perfect.
We're meant to be talking about tool storage, though, aren't we?
Yeah, we've gone to clothes storage. 3 weeks in a row on fashion.
Storing wood finishes. I remember Peter Millard. God, Peter Millard's getting a lot of mentions in these last couple of podcasts, isn't he? He did a metal lockable unit for wood finishes that was to protect things like flammable liquids. That's a great idea as well. I mean, I've got a metal cabinet that I store all of my wood finishes in. Whether it's actually fire compliant when you look at the regulations or not, I don't know, but it certainly feels a lot safer than having them in a combustible cabinet. We'll leave a link to that in the show notes just in case anyone missed that one.
What I want to do is store them in a separate building, so even if it did catch fire spontaneously, it's an outbuilding rather than...
It takes away all the risk, yeah.
The workshop obviously had a wood burner in my last one, so do you want to have cans of oil where you have the wood burner? It doesn't really make sense. But also I'm trying to reduce my wood finishes. That's the trouble, isn't it? You buy paint and things for a project and then you have a bit left over and you don't want to get rid of it, but then how many cans of paint do you have?
Completely with you there. I've got a whole cabinet full of paints that we've used to decorate the house in our storeroom. Then I've got a shed full of paints that I don't think I'm ever going to use. Most of them were left over when we moved in. I've used one or two of them, to be fair, but I don't think I'll use the rest.
The good thing is they're mostly water-based these days. They're not so much of a fire risk to the oil-based ones.
Yeah, I think there's paint recycling things as well.
Yeah. Community projects that if you've got a can of white paint, then... Because you can just, especially these water-based ones, well, probably someone will tell you don't do this, but you could mix 3 different brands of white paint together to get and paint a room. Painting the workshop soon, so... but I'm going quite bold.
So you're not going white then?
I think I want it to be really atmospheric.
You're going for the boutique vibe, aren't you?
I am. It's workshop chic.
Can I ask what colour, or is it going to be a surprise?
It's going to be a dark blue.
Okay.
I quite like the dark greens, but you've got the greens. I can't steal green.
Didn't you have dark blue before?
I did. I think it was called Denim Drift, because I remember that. I love paint colours. But the workshop's really light in their position the windows so they're north facing, so it never get direct streaming sunlight, just light. But I've been working in there, well, just doing installation stuff, and it's been perfectly bright, and that's with nothing on the walls. So I think it would probably darken it up a bit painting, but for filming, you want studio lights anyway. Yeah. So I think it's going to be absolutely fine.
How about wood storage then? Have you got a plan for that?
Well, I'm back to the exact same dilemma I had at the start of the workshop. Do I buy a metal shed and stick it all in that? I see what materials I have left over, because the more materials I have left over, the more tempted I'll be to build it. So I can get long bits along one wall, a rack of paint, some garden tools, and that's it really.
Yeah.
Doesn't need windows.
I'm obviously a big fan of the twin slot shelving. I can't believe the amount of weight it deals with. I pile up slabs of beech on them, which are really heavy, and I did 600 centres between the uprights as well. Cannot believe it copes with so much weight. Modular as well, so you can change bits out. You can get bigger brackets, smaller brackets, move them up or down. Love it.
Yeah, and it's cheap.
Yeah. I also really like the rack that I've got for sheet materials. It works so well. I don't even know where it came from. One of my channel members actually gave it to me. He lived in Norwich and he was having a bit of a clear out because he was moving away hundreds of miles. And he said he found these racks in a car park in an industrial estate. And they're just like metal tubing, square tubing that's been welded together. And you can literally just slide your sheets in and slide them out. And he gave me 2 of them, and I've got one in the shed with all of OSB and chipboard and stuff that I hardly ever use, and then one in the workshop for all of the stuff that I do use. Yeah, that works really well.
That sounds good. Yeah, I don't know what I do, but I think, yeah, that shelving, because you see lots of videos of people making lumber racks. Why are you spending all this money and time when you can just buy something that you can change your mind in the future and adjust it? But they're not pretty. I don't want them in my workshop.
Yeah, they're not pretty.
I've thought about making, I think they're called Dutch toolboxes. They're almost like bureaus with bits that fold down, and they look great. And I love the aesthetics of them, and every tool is its own little place. But why do I need that if I could just have it on a hook on the wall? And I think you're a big fan of putting things on nails on the wall.
Yeah, much to my... I don't know. It's not aesthetically pleasing at all, my workshop. You see all of these fancy, aesthetically designed workshops on YouTube and places like that, and a lot of workshops that look like they don't even get used for work as well. Whereas, I want my workshop to be a place where I'm not afraid to make a mess, and that's definitely what it is. So it works for me. But,
you say it's not aesthetically pleasing. I think your mitre saw station with the green cubbies and the red tools looks great.
Oh, thank you.
And that's a really nice backdrop.
I quite like the dark green, dark red colour combination as well, because it's conflicting and it just looks vibrant.
It's very festive.
Yeah, it's quite festive.
So I'm thinking of really displaying the hand tools that are nice. I have a few wooden-handled marples, chisels, but most of my chisels are Irwin, marples, Stanley, or all kind of the blue handles. But you don't want your chisels in a drawer, because anything with a sharp edge you want to keep separate. But after getting my dad's, I must have 30 chisels.
Really?
But in a way I like that, because I'm terrible at sharpening. Or I'm terrible at doing sharpening. So actually having 4 of each size...
That's a great idea, because then you can just have a mass sharpening session every 6 months or a year or whatever, and just sharpen them all, and then you're set then for another...
Well, especially I see these fancy sharpening systems, say like a Tormac, where you start at quite aggressive, and then you have to I forgot what it's called, dress. That's it. Redress the wheel for another grit. We don't do one chisel like that. You might as well do 20. Yeah. And same with the belt systems. What, you're going to change through 4 or 5 different belts? You might as well do all your chisels on each belt.
Yeah.
This is going to be a controversy, that you can buy like the really fancy chisels at £60 a pop. I don't want to say a chisel is a chisel, because I did have some really cheap chisels that would go blunt in no time. But cheap hand planes are a pain. But they're much more complicated things.
Yeah, I'm with you on chisels in a way, although I've been lusting after that Narex, whatever it is, set of wooden handled chisels for years now, but I don't really allow myself luxuries in life. Which sounds quite sad, but it's just the way I am, and I'm fine with it, if you know what I mean. The chisels that I've got do everything I need them to do. I don't need those Narex chisels. I would like them, I just don't need them, so I'm not going to spend money on something that I just don't need. Where do you stand on the whole French cleats thing? Because I know they're really popular, but the thing is I like them for hanging things in the house, because I just think they're a really easy, practical and clever way to hang up heavy things on a wall. But you know, the whole workshop French cleat wall system where you make tool holders that you can move around to any position and stuff. Where do you stand on all that stuff?
I've only ever made one French cleat, and that's when I made a big, heavy oak kitchen unit. Trying to hold it up or even prop it up while you screwed it onto the wall would be a nightmare, as you put your French cleated batten up and then just lift it into place. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So it is great for that. Yeah, I just don't like the look of them. I mean, I'm sure I mentioned Frank Howarth in the last video. He's a bit like Peter Millard. He gets a lot of mentions.
Yeah.
He's got that room where he's got nothing but French cleats. He's made all those fancy things for it.
Yeah.
I don't like the aesthetics particularly, and I'm just going to make shelves for my walls, and if I want to move them, I just unscrew them and screw them somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I see how clever they are. It's just not for me. I never like to say anything's right or wrong because everyone has their own, and for Frank it's obviously amazing, and I'm sure for other people.
See, I'm kind of on the fence with it as well, but I like it aesthetically to look at, but the idea of making individual tool holders for tools that you might not even have in 5 years' time or whatever, I would rather spend my time making projects like, you know, pieces of furniture or whatever. That's the stuff that I enjoy doing. Making a tool holder for a circular saw or something so that you can hang your circular saw on the wall, I can't think of anything less inspiring to me.
Yeah, but everyone's different. There's definitely, in every hobby, there's a group of people that basically like the hobby because of all the stuff you can buy for the hobby.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, of course.
No, nothing wrong with
that. If that's how you get your pleasure, great.
Yeah, but you see the workshops that have every tool and it's beautiful, and all they seem to make is stuff for the workshop.
Yeah.
But that's just what they like. I know a guy that's a fisherman, and he only goes fishing like twice a year, but he goes to the fishing, the big shows, and comes back with, he's got a radio-controlled boat that he can drive out into the middle of the lake or whatever, and then press a button and it dumps bait out of the bottom of it. And you could just throw the bait. But it's just such a ridiculous thing. But you're at the trade show and you see this shiny thing and go, yeah, that's what I need.
I'm having that.
But it's the same with woodworking. So my plan for the workshop is, I think I said I want chisels on racks, and I think I'm going to have hand planes on racks, and I'm going to use a lot of the things that are my dad's as almost art. So He's got lovely calipers and gauges and things that I don't even know what they're for, but they're lovely bits of 50-year-old metal. And I'm actually even thinking about putting like little frames around them on the back wall.
Yeah.
So they're just a backdrop of nice looking things on the wall, which I'm never going to touch.
Yeah, that'll look really nice.
I think I'll keep the Bisley things for the screwdrivers. But it's amazing the kind of tools that people think woodworkers use, like a hammer.
Yeah.
They associate a claw hammer with what we do. I've got a lovely S-Twing claw hammer with a leather stack handle. On my workshop build, I've not taken it outside once. I use my mallet that has a soft and hard, a rubber and a plastic face, which I think you've got Thor one, which you use.
Yeah, you didn't like the Thor one, did you?
It's all done in ounces, I think, their sizing.
The weight kind of thing, yeah.
I bought the one I think that was too small.
Okay.
I think yours looks twice as big, which is about the size of this other one I have, which I think is a Wearer, or it's the German brand, but I've seen it under loads of. It's one of those tools that's rebranded.
Yeah.
A lot, but I think I must have had that 4 years. But I think I use that mallet almost on every project.
Yeah, I use mine a lot as well. Yeah.
Do you have 2 sets of tools, as in your good set and then a beta set? I'll give an example. When I first moved to the last house, I'd taken the toolkit with me. They'd put all these wooden battens for all the curtain rails on the wall, and they'd put them up with raw plugs and then 4-inch nails into raw plugs. But of course, with a screw, you just unscrew it. What do you do with a nail?
So they actually gripped in there pretty well then?
They gripped in there really well. Huh. But so I had my nice-ish screwdrivers, reasonably small ones. I needed a big screwdriver that I could hit under it with a hammer and lever it. And I bought the B&Q kind of own brand. I think they're called Magnum. And I love this screwdriver. It kind of has a hexagonal shaped shank that you can get a spanner on for extra torque, a rubberized, it's now one of my most used tools for every time I need to scrape or pry, or because it was like £2.50.
Yeah.
But I don't care about if I ever break it. But I've had it for 4 years now and I abuse it every week. And again, I would like to get some chisels that I can abuse. Even these ones I've got cost £1. Yeah. I know they're nice chisels.
Yeah.
As you can get the chisels that have the metal tang that goes all the way through the handle to a metal plate at the back that are just designed to be beat on. And I'm like, I want a beta set of everything. So do you have a beta version of things?
Yes, I do, yeah. I've got a beta set of chisels in the workshop and I use those quite a lot. And they get sharpened on the grinder to no, level of precision. They just get abused, but they're the old Rolson ones.
Yes, yeah.
The really premium.
But if they're so good for scraping up glue squeeze out or a bit of paint off something.
They're perfect, for that stuff.
So I've tried drawers, the roller cabinets, like the mechanics roller cabinets. I had 2 in the last workshop.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of having clamps in them. And then it's just such a pain. And the drawers fill with sawdust, I found as well.
Yeah.
So now I've got my clamps in the drain pipe thingies, copying you. But I'm not sure I'm going to do that in the next workshop.
They don't look great, do they?
They don't look great.
For an aesthetic workshop like yours, so they're not really ideal, are they?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do something neater. I think I'm going to do a clamp rack, but the pipes are by far the quickest, easiest thing to get them out of and put them back in. Yeah. I'm not in a rush anymore. I think it's different if you were in a commercial workspace, actually having things quick.
Orders coming in. And
I don't need anything that quick anymore, so I can do things neatly. So I watched one by David Stanton, how to dual purpose your Festool guide rail clamps for dovetail slots. So I think we've probably all seen those micro jig clamps that go into dovetails, and they're really good, but the Festool ones, or all the similar ones, are kind of a dovetail shape, and I've done them before. I've made a jointer sled for the table saw, so just to rip a straight edge on a wonky board, and they worked really well. And so he does a good video on that. I'm a really big fan of those clamps. I mean, I hate to say it again, Peter Millard. Why don't we just call this the Peter Millard podcast? He uses those kind of ratcheting clamps that go into the MFT top all the time.
Yeah, I've never had one of those ratcheting clamps.
The official ones are expensive. I think I got the Axminster ones, which were slightly cheaper, but I think they were £30 each.
That is a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot, but I'm sure you can get them off Banggood now.
Yeah.
They're just so satisfying. You just want to use them just for the noise they make. I love them.
I don't know what I would use them with anymore, because obviously I haven't got any MFT holes.
Oh, I saw your video about your scary track saw moment. I know that was quite a long time ago now, but we've not spoke about it. Yeah, that could have been awful, couldn't it? Because you just get so used to, as soon as you've lifted it up, it being safe.
Yeah, force of habit. You just put the tool down.
Yeah.
You don't think to check it. You just put it down. Yeah. It could have been a lot worse depending on what I put it on. My mobile phone might have been on my bench or whatever,
Yeah. And good it's cordless, because you could have it could have whizzed off over the cable as well.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a good video from our friend Charlie D.I. White about how to chop or split logs. Obviously, I've got a wood stove now, so that was of particular interest to me. And on his recommendation, I went and bought a maul, which is like a wide-headed axe, which I've been using to attempt to chop up firewood, but unfortunately the wood that I have is just too wet and I cannot get through it. I wanted to get that satisfying shtuk where it just goes straight through the log, but could not do it. But yeah, it was a great video. It went through all sorts of different methods, and I've got my eye on one of those hydraulic wood splitter things as well. I'd quite like to get one of those. Sorry, I just heard a really strange noise. I think there's a partridge in my garden.
Get the axe.
That's horrible, Matt.
You want a totally different axe for felling a tree to splitting wood. It's more wedge-shaped. But what I used to use because there used to be a tree surgeon at the pub, so he used to drop off rounds of log. So you can, even with a mule, you're just kind of bouncing off this big round. And I had this thing went to the local agricultural supplies kind of place and bought, I think it was called a grenade, and it's like a metal wedge. It's kind of more four-way.
It's got a point that you can drive in,
And just using a sledgehammer to knock that in, and it was fantastic. I mean, not satisfying, but worked amazingly well.
Yeah, maybe I need to look at one of those as well. I haven't even got a sledgehammer, though. That's another thing that I've had on my... It's not even my want list, it's my need list, because I've had so many occasions where I've needed a sledgehammer. I should have just bought one by now. Yeah, I've got a couple of hatchets. One that I found a hatchet head buried in our garden, and I turned that into an axe.
I remember.
Yeah, made a nice handle for it out of some oak, and I use that quite a lot to split kindling. And I just do that on my workbench, but I need to figure out my log splitting game. And I think that hydraulic thing, I think I might have to get one of those because it would be so useful. Whenever I see any logs being given away on Facebook, I'm going to try and get in there so that I can split them down, dry them out, and use them in years to come.
What I would recommend is like a chopping platform.
I've needed something like that as well, because I was trying to chop these logs just on the ground, and it was impossible, because I think a lot of your energy just goes into the ground rather than... And everyone's just like, oh, just get a tree stump. It's like, well, where from?
It's dangerous as well, because if you miss when you're chopping the ground... the axe will swing back. If you stand up and just do it slowly and see what it do, it would come back and hit you in the shins.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
As if you have a block and you miss, because it's up higher, the axe can't swing past the block and just hits the block. I've always wanted to make one of, say, get some 4x4s, cut them to whatever height you want, 60 centimetres, and then glue them up like an end grain block. And then you could put some... like a metal strap round or something to hold it together.
I've seen the thing where they put like an old tyre on the top as well to hold the wood upright so that it doesn't fall over.
Anyway, we better get on with some actual real work.
Yeah, editing for me because it's raining, so no more.
I might do some insulation.
Yeah.
Right, speak to you soon.
Enjoy. See you later.
Thank you for listening. You can find Keith on YouTube by searching for Rag N Bone Brown, and me by searching for Badger Workshop. We have a Patreon page if you'd like to help support us in making future episodes of the podcast. Link to that in the show notes. And we have a Workshop Banter Instagram and Facebook page if you'd like to get in touch, which is @Workshop Banter, all one word.